All right, so student debt remains a massive problem, and that is largely because of Joe Biden. Joe Biden has outright refused to cancel all student debt, even though he does have the power as the president of the United States to cancel 100% of federally held student loan debt, which is about 92% of the total held by about 45 million Americans for a total of about $1.7 trillion. So he has the power to free up that $1.7 trillion so that people can actually spend money on their lives and aren't burdened for debt for the rest of their life for the crime of trying to get a higher education. It would be a massive boost to the economy. I don't think we should be striving for a society where people are burdened with debt for the crime of getting a higher education, and yet Joe Biden has firmly taken the position so far as a pro-student debt president. And so Chuck Schumer, who has been in favor alongside Elizabeth Warren of a $50,000 cancellation in student debt, is telling us to put some pressure on Joe Biden in order to essentially do their job for them. So let's go ahead and listen to what Chucky Schumer over here had to say.
So people, folks listening, whether you have the debt, have a friend who has the debt, believe it's the right thing, we're asking you, email, call, write President Joseph Robinette Biden and tell him you want this done. We're trying to get as many people to contact the White House as possible, and frankly, we told this to Joe Biden, and he said, go ahead, let it rip. So let's show him what kind of support there is out there for this great plan that Elizabeth, Bob, and I, and many, many others are pushing. Let's get this done.
All right. Listen, I'm not trying to just be negative for the sake of being negative, but this is pretty much ridiculous, okay? This is what their job is, okay? This is what your job is as an elected representative, especially if you're Chuck Schumer and you are the leader of the Senate, you're the leader of the Democratic Party in the Senate. You go to Joe Biden and you have a meeting with Joe Biden where you say, we're going to try to get other people, our constituents, to tell you how much they need this student debt cancellation. This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. It shouldn't take millions of people having to get on the phone lines and explain to Joe Biden why they shouldn't be burdened with debt for the rest of their lives for the crime of getting a higher education. What the fuck does he need to be convinced? We know the statistics on this. We know that it disproportionately affects minority communities. We know that it even disproportionately affects women. Why are you, as supposedly this new progressive, big, bold FDR-style president, even having to think twice about this? Let alone have Chuck Schumer and Elizabeth Warren calling on the general public to force them to go and do their job for them. Their job is to make sure that this type of legislation happens. It's not legislation that would pass through Congress, but it's something that Joe Biden has the unilateral authority to do. And then we had a recent article that just came a couple days ago that said Joe Biden is looking into his authority to cancel student debt. Like he's asking the people around him, what is my authority to cancel? We already know the answer to that, Joe. We've known the answer to that for a long time. For a long time. This is something that Bernie Sanders ran on because he knew that he had the authority to do this. And again, it's a multi-tiered problem here because it's not just good enough to cancel student debt. We also would need some legislation to move through Congress to make sure that public college is made free for everyone in the country so that student debt doesn't become a problem in the future. But this issue of canceling student debt is so fucking easy. It would affect tens of millions of people, free up literally over $1 trillion to be injected into the economy, because I've seen all of these stories recently of so many people, millennials and even Gen Z now, and even some older people, some boomers and some seniors that have their social security checks garnished because of student debt. Seniors, senior citizens who still haven't paid off their student debt. And it's a multi-tiered problem, again, because you have the problem of college not being free in this country. And you also have the problem of this student debt that restricts people from engaging in other things that are necessary in order to build out a normal life. I can't even tell you the amount of stories that I've read and listened to the last couple of weeks of Americans who are young, millennials, Gen Z, who are deciding to stall major life decisions like having kids or trying to buy a house in order to pay off their student debts. This is not how you build a functional society. You don't burden your young people in the country with student debt. That's not how it's done. And so this is a really simple issue, and it blows my mind that we're even having to call Joe Biden. So if you want to go call Joe Biden, go do it and add to the pressure. But the thing I'm trying to say here is the pressure has been there for a long time. This is pathetic. Okay, it shouldn't take Chuck Schumer and Elizabeth Warren. And by the way, their plan isn't even to cancel all of student debt. it's just $50,000 worth of student debt. I think it should be all student debt. Because again, I don't think that in a functional society, the phrase student debt should even be something that exists. The goal in building up future generations is to have them be as highly educated as possible so that they can go and explore the world and do whatever they need in order to be productive in society. That's the goal of building a functional, healthy society, not so that, private lenders or so that the federal government is absorbing trillions of dollars worth of young people's wealth that they could be using to build in their own lives. This is a very simple issue here. You gotta cancel student debt. The pressure, I guess, is mounting with things like this, and I'm glad at least they're saying something about it instead of just ignoring this glaring problem. But this is not something that Joe Biden should have to think about twice. Okay, so let's get on with this. Let's get past this issue here, and then let's move on to addressing the root causes of why this student debt crisis has blown up in the first place.